My topic is about data-driven optimization for low-traffic websites. Misconception going on when it comes to low-traffic websites. Most agencies think that somehow there's not enough money when it comes to low-traffic websites, offering services for them, and that's why most companies, bigger agencies, don't really talk about it, and they don't really want to go into that space. From the other hand, people who own those websites sometimes think that, they are really low traffic, they can't really run any tests, so does it mean that they can't also optimize? But that's a misconception, because currently we are living, I think we are living, or I see that we are living actually in a tool-driven optimization world, which means that when someone wants to optimize a website, the first thing they do is that they go to look for tools. Because you need something to optimize your website. So they go and purchase a tool, and then they discover that actually they don't have enough traffic to run tests at all. And I hear it a lot when we talk about CRO. People tell that we don't have the traffic to optimize. We tried, no results. We don't have enough traffic. So, but that's actually wrong. You can optimize also without having any traffic. Of course, it's also possible. Or you can also optimize if you have very little traffic. But the main problem there is that people don't really know that. There aren't so many articles about optimizing low traffic websites. Because again, most of the content out there is also written by those tool providers, talking only about A/B tests, etc. So if people look for optimization opportunities, they purchase a tool, they mostly talk about tools, and they think that if their tool cannot do their optimization, then they can't do any optimization at all, which is of course not correct. What we recommend before you even start to look for a tool, you need an optimization strategy first. So what do I mean by that? So first you have to figure out, like, what can you do to optimize your website? What can you do with your traffic if you want to do some data-driven optimization? And based on that, you can look for different tools. There are like heat map tools, there are testing tools, there are user feedback tools. So the tool has to come after you have an optimization strategy, not vice versa, because otherwise you might start to limit yourself and your opportunities for growth. And also companies who think that, and actually what do you mean by low traffic, optimizing low traffic websites? Most websites, I would say 99.9% of websites out there are low traffic. Low traffic, I mean like less than 10,000 visitors per month. But this doesn't mean that those businesses don't have money to purchase services or optimize their websites, because like many multi-billion-dollar industries, companies from those industries also have websites, like business-to-business companies, companies selling expensive industrial equipment, consultancies, professional service firms, etc., etc. And those are huge multi-million-dollar businesses, and even billion-dollar businesses. And it's an easy exercise to calculate what is one lead, for example, worth to you. And this puts the whole optimization talk into perspective, because you imagine that you could increase your lead count by 10, for example, and your lead worth, for example, is like 6 to 7K. Let's say you sell expensive retainer-based annual contracts, for example. And then that really puts this thing into perspective, because you will understand how much actual more money you will get from your website if you would use some optimization. But again, of course, let's revisit the topic of running A/B tests again, because like most companies, of course, can't run any A/B tests. For example, if you have like an average e-commerce business, and let's say your conversion rate is around 2%, and you want to run an A/B test that aims to detect an uplift of 5% with a 95% significance, you need 400,000 visitors per variation. It means to run the test, you need 800 visitors in total. And then, if you look into analytics, you might see that you are far from it. And not a lot of companies actually have that traffic to run tests that can bring you such uplifts within a month. It's pretty rare, and another calculation here from our own A/B test calculator shows you that actually, for example, if you have a even smaller business, and you have, for example, only 20,000 visitors per month, and the conversion rate is again, let's say 1%, it's a lead gen site, for example, then you can see how big those uplifts have to be so you could measure them in a reasonable amount of time. So, for example, if you want to run a test on this site that to measure a 26% uplift, you need 4 weeks. But 26% from a test, it's very rare that you get that kind of an uplift, because most it can happen when your site is very, very bad. But if your site is let's say you went live a year ago, doesn't have a lot of technical problems, it's pretty solid. It's almost impossible to get uplifts like that. So, but many people don't do those calculations. And what we've seen a lot is that they just use different optimization tools, testing tools and heat map tools to experiment, to run tests. And here you can see a screen where someone tries to measure a pretty decent uplift, but they just don't have the traffic. And in many cases, if they see that this drags along for a long time, they just close the test because it's big enough potential uplift, and they think that they can't wait, and they will just implement this change because it seems to be big and it's kind of there. But if you look at the sample size there, like 960 versus 948 variation of visitors per variation, is super small. So even to measure that uplift is not possible. But they still run tests like that and just implement stuff that doesn't really matter. Another example here, there's a heat map. There are a lot of clicks everywhere, but if you look at the sample size again, there's only 20 clicks on it. So, and based on that heat map, you can't really do any decisions how to optimize anything. So that's why optimizing low traffic websites, you have to have a different strategy. You can't really use the tools that are used for high traffic websites. So, and this, but people still do that. And for me it's like being an alchemist. Like those people look at those small data points and they really want to create some uplifts from nothing. And sometimes they are even good at convincing their employees or contractors that they can do that, but it's all bullshit. It's not there. All those uplifts from such a small data are usually imaginary. Does it mean that you can't test at all? Yeah, of course you can test if you have like 10, 20,000 visitors per month, but then you have to do very big tests, like where you put a lot of different variables into one test. And this should increase the likelihood that you get a decent big uplift that you can measure with your traffic. But again, running A/B tests on low traffic websites is not a good idea. So before we start optimizing a web page, you always do test bandwidth calculations. From those calculations, we pull this data from analytics. From there, we can see how many tests can be run on a specific page. What should be per year? What's the minimal detectable effect that we can measure, and based on that we can prioritize what are the pages to focus on. If we see that we can't run a test on a page per month, running tests on a site like that is actually not a good idea. We have to have a different optimization strategy in general. So we have created this model of we call optimization tower. And as you see, it has 6 steps, and testing is actually the last step there. And there are many other things you can do before you get to testing. Before you start to run A/B tests, there are many things you can do to optimize your site without any testing. And I will introduce those steps everyone can use to optimize their low traffic site. First of all, this video is not working. Of course, we have heuristics. By heuristics we mean good case practices, different conversion frameworks you can use to analyze a site to find different problems and opportunities. But with heuristics, everyone thinks that they know, they can see and spot the problem, what's wrong with the picture. But we also have to understand that most of the heuristics frameworks or good case practices are highly contextual. It means that if something is working for you, doesn't mean it works for someone else. So that's why we still need good data-driven decisions to not mess up our site, actually, I would say that. And then when it comes to heuristics, there are many frameworks out there, like the LIFT model from WhiteFunnel. There's another model from WebAuthn, for example. But all those models mostly focus on five different topics: relevancy, clarity, value, friction, distraction. So, and if you keep those things in mind, you can have like a structured way to look at websites and to find different opportunities for uplifts there. But as I already mentioned, that's not the best strategy, because in our model, heuristics is kind of the 4th step, because there are many other things you can do to really improve your conversions using data that you have in hand. Okay, and like a case against heuristics here. For example, if you don't have any data and you would like to optimize, for example, Craigslist, like maybe we would put some like a hero image there, some call to actions, a value proposition, but without knowing what's really going on the site, without having any analytics or user feedback, you really might mess up your business. That's why like data-driven optimization is still the king, not only heuristics. What data to gather, how to analyze it, how to form proper improvement ideas for different treatments. So we use the Research Excel model, which outlines what different data points you can use to optimize a website. There's a heuristic analysis, of course. There's mouse tracking analysis. You can look at web analytics. You can do user tests, customer service, and you can also run a technical analysis. So, and the first step when we look back at the optimization tower, of course, is that you should, before you even start to optimize, you should measure everything. You should have a constant flow of user feedback, qualitative data I mean, customer surveys, chat logs, support emails. You should keep them, you should analyze them, codify them to see what people are talking about. Plus, also, of course, you should have some qualitative data analytics, which is probably set up, heat maps, form analytics, etc. So after you're measuring everything, like the first most logical step is you should do a website walkthrough. Just walk the path that the customer usually takes on your site. And I'm guaranteeing you that you will find some bugs from there. For example, here on the right, here is a screenshot of a tool, like an optimization tool website. And they have a 4-step lead form. But if you fill all that in, their call to action is just not working on Mac, on Chrome. So that's a huge issue. They are just losing leads. And their website is all about optimization and then being smart, using data to improve conversions, but they haven't done their basic website workflows, like their site is broken. So, and I can guarantee that also when you go to your own site, just use the most common devices, like an Android device, iOS device, Mac computer, Windows computer, just go through your funnel to see if you find any bugs. But that's not enough, because usually people just have access to a limited amount of browsers and devices. So that's why reports like conversion per device and conversion per browser come very handy. And there you can see you have to spot some anomalies. For example, if your site conversion rate is, let's say, 11%, if one browser or device is performing way under that, you might have a problem there. So here's one example when we saw like this anomaly in analytics. We used the same device and browser to browse the site. We saw that the site was not scaled properly for the screen size. So it was all messed up. So that's why the conversions were lost there. Super simple to spot, but people usually, if they just use their own device, they don't see it. So that's why those reports are super handy. And another example, that's a tablet that their clients used a lot. And we've again found that on this tablet, the conversions were a lot lower than the average, and we saw that the checkout was totally messed up. So, but also there, when it comes to small, low-traffic sites, you have to keep in mind the sample size. You know, like if you have a browser or device where you have less than 100 conversions, that's not really a thing. You know, like you can even see that people these days browse websites using like Xboxes or TVs, and they never purchase from there. You know. And if you see that the conversion rate is 0 there, that's not really a strong signal. You also have to make sure that you have enough sample size, enough conversions to analyze those reports. So if the sample size is not there, you just have to expand the period you're looking at. Another easy way for quick uplifts, just run those site speed reports. There are many out there. There are many facts about site speed, how it can cost you a lot of money and class if it's not quick enough. So those tools are out there, you can just look for them and then run those reports and then fix your speed issues. So those were the simple bug fixes everyone can do, even if you have low traffic. So let's talk a bit about qualitative data now. So one cool thing that you can do if you don't have even any traffic, you can do it even pre-launch on user tests. You just give people who are from your ideal target group tasks they have to do on your site, which then are connected to your main KPIs. Like go look for a product, sign up for a newsletter, fill in the form, send get a quote or whatnot. And you can even run those on your competitor sites to see where they are lacking, for example. So a super simple way, again, to get some user feedback and ideas on to improve your site without any traffic, actually. Customer service, which you can send out to your recent customers to ask about why they chose you, what were the competitors they were considering. If you don't have a lot of customers, you can just call them up and ask about how their experience when they signed up with your services or whatnot. But also make sure that you incentivize those efforts, because no one is really there to give you just feedback for free, because they have so many other things to do, not only fill in your customer service. Voice of the customer data, again, very useful. We don't really recommend to run exit intent service on low traffic sites, the things that pop up before you are about to leave, because the conversion rate for those is super low. Even on high traffic sites, it's usually 0.2 or 0.1. So you might wait for a year on a low traffic site to get responses from there. But those feedback buttons are very necessary. You know, that people have to have a channel to contact you when they see, for example, that the call to action is not working, for example. Those channels have to be open. Then another data point you can look at, of course, heat map. because from the heat maps, you can see if you have some important information that is way below the fold where people never get, or you have important information that people are missing out that is in the footer, or maybe they are clicking on links that are not real links. So this information, you can generate those heat maps pretty easily. Like you can use, I don't know, Hotjar or ClickTale or whatnot. So here's one example where there was a site, they had a product demo on this phone there. No one was clicking there. There was no interaction. But this was kind of the main way how they wanted to demo their product. So it was also a good data point for them to fix. You know, like they redesigned their page based on this data. Then a cool thing is that actually you can also generate those heat maps without any data. Again, there are cool tools out there like FengCui or iQuant, which then use machine learning algorithms to generate heat maps. You don't need any data for that. So this is, you can even do pre-launch. Another great way to test your content, again, without any traffic actually, that's a tool we created ourselves. It's called copy testing. And this is like user testing where you select your ideal target group based on demographics. For example, you have a service for lawyers in US, so those people are in their 30s. And you put in your landing page copy, and then those people will feedback your copy. They will give it a rating, and also they give you open feedback you can use to improve your copy. And you can just put iteration after iteration into this tool to see if it gets better for your ideal target group. Again, it's kind of testing, but it's not really A/B testing. You can just use it without any traffic. It's a great way to optimize your website, actually. So everything that you find from those heat maps, from analytics, from site walkthroughs, and from analyzing the copy, if you see stuff that is broken, just fix it. But if there's no one solution how to fix it, you still should experiment, because if you just push stuff out, if you push stuff live without any experimentation, you might make it worse. So that's why experimentation is still needed. And for experimentation, of course, you need a proper hypothesis. And that means that, here's a way a template you can use to grade a hypothesis. You should write down what's the variable, what's the element, it might be a call to action, it might be a website copy, it might be the layout. Then you have to think, what are the KPIs, what are the changes you want to see? And then also you have to rationalize, like, why this hypothesis? What did you see? Like, what's the data behind it? So those are the three key elements of proper hypothesis for experimentation. But when it comes to experimenting with low traffic websites, you can't really test anything, but you can still run experiments that are insightful. For example, using computer-generated heat maps, you can, for example, here's a treatment we use for optimizing this site. Like on this, you can see that we saw from analytics that actually most of the sales for this site came through search, because it's a big site, a lot of products, and people usually use the search to get to conversions. But the search bar was up there in the header, so it wasn't really visually dominant. And we thought that, hey, like what if we bring that to the above the fold, somewhere there in the middle, and we take more importance away from the other elements. So this, and also we ran like this computer-generated heat map, and we saw that actually, the search bar is not really getting enough potential attention. So, and we created a treatment where we put this search bar in the middle of the along the fold area. We took away all the green and used the green, like the most dominant color on this page, only on the call to action there. So when we run this heat map tool on this page, and this image, we saw that actually, it should kind of work, because we saw that all the heat was then focused on the call to action there. And of course, this site had enough traffic for testing. And when we ran an A/B test, we got an 8% uplift in conversions, which was actually huge for this site. Or you can also experiment using voice of the customer data. Here are some word clouds that are generated from voice of the customer data. And we saw when we ran an analysis, we analyzed the voice of the customer data from the product page, we saw that many people, that the main keyword that came out from this data was shipping. Like people wanted to know more about shipping, the costs, the times, whatnot. And we saw, based on heuristics, that actually shipping information was there way below, like the fall in the filter, the 5th menu item there. So we took this information, a part of this information, put that above the fold, and then after some time, we looked at the voice of the customer data again, and saw that the shipping question had disappeared. They were now just putting in information when we asked with an exit pop-up that we are just looking, So we solved this problem, and we tested it using voice of the customer data. So this means that A/B testing is not always even needed. You can also experiment with other data sources. And also, of course, you can use this copy testing tool I talked about, where you can iterate your copy until it's all green and people find it interesting and captivating. So, and to sum it up, those are maybe not the best experiments, of course, but you can't run good, solid, statistically significant experiments on a low traffic site. Not possible. You just don't have the traffic. But I would sum it up with a cute old saying from the medieval times, I guess. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is the king. Which kind of means that the value of any ability you have is measured by its commonness. So if you can use data to optimize low traffic websites, you are really actually, you have a very powerful tool in your hands, because most people, they don't optimize low traffic websites at all, or if they do it, they don't use the data. So it's a powerful way strategy you could have using different data sources